The fallout. The railroad had been a hot topic of conversation in the small town of Haven for some time now. It had been a few years since the old train tracks had been laid, but the townspeople had been cautious and suspicious of the new transportation system that had come to their sleepy town. It had been the talk of the town for weeks, but no one had any answers as to why it had come to Haven. That all changed when the Institute came to town. The Institute was an organization that had been around for centuries, and it had been known to deal in some shady business. It wasn't long before the townspeople found out that the Institute was using the railroad to transport people to and from the town, and they were not happy about it. Haven had always been a peaceful place, and the townspeople did not want strangers coming in and disrupting their way of life. The mayor of Haven, John Smith, called a meeting with the Institute to discuss the situation. He demanded that the Institute stop using the railroad to transport people to and from the town, and to never use the railroad in Haven again. The Institute refused to comply with the mayor's demands, and the townspeople began to worry. The Institute had a reputation for being ruthless, and the townspeople feared that they would not back down without a fight. That's when the railroad stepped in. The railroad had been watching the situation in Haven with great interest. It had been a few weeks since the Institute had come to town, and the railroad had seen enough. The railroad had been around for many years, and it had seen its fair share of shady business, but this was different. The railroad decided to intervene. It sent a team of its own to Haven and had a long discussion with the Institute. The railroad refused to let the Institute take any more people from Haven, and it demanded that the Institute leave the town immediately. The Institute was not happy about the decision, but it had no choice. It had to comply with the railroad's demands. The Institute left Haven that day, and the townspeople breathed a collective sigh of relief. But the railroad wasn't done yet. The railroad had been watching the Institute's activities with great interest, and it had noticed something. The Institute had been using the railroad to transport something else, synths. The railroad had seen how the Institute had been using the synths for its own ill-gotten gains, and it had decided to intervene. The railroad sent another team to Haven to free the synths from the Institute's control. The railroad's team worked quickly and efficiently, and within a few hours, all of the synths had been freed from the Institute's control. The townspeople cheered as the synths were reunited with their families, and the railroad was hailed as a hero. The fallout from the Institute's actions had been immense, but the railroad had stepped in and saved the day. The townspeople of Haven were grateful to the railroad, and from that day forward, they viewed the railroad as a trusted friend. The railroad had done its part to protect the people of Haven, and it had earned their trust and admiration. The railroad had saved Haven from the Institute's clutches, and it had freed the synths from their captivity. The people of Haven had endured the fallout, and they had come out the other side, stronger than ever. The railroad had played a major role in Haven's survival, and it had earned its place in the town's history.